would be very helpful because I hear the speaker back. Don't hear him at all now, but he's always had a little trouble. He has had a little trouble. Chat restream. Let's go full screen here. All right. Yeah, we kind of moved it around, Floyd. Floyd Duck, a.k.a. John Arnold. Can you do it now?
Now we got two sci phases. Not sure which.
Yeah, that's what he did. That's what he's been doing. One is mobile, one is desktop. He's had a lot of... Oh, I got to put a suitable image up behind me. Let's see. I had something fun last time. Some sort of coding in the Galleria. Coding. Let's see what we got. How about programming? Artworks. C#. No. God, these are awful. Truly awful. Yeah, this will work. Oh, that's good. I'll do that. That's the... Hey, I hear somebody.
John's in the Matrix.
John Arnold, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Why am I on screen? I thought I was just watching.
Too bad, my friend.
I didn't
that link is for people who want to join us.
Oh, shit. Well, I can...
Join us. You've been doing it, right? You're working on it.
Yeah, I'm doing it, but it's midnight here, and I'll put the light on if I'm going to be on the... Hang on.
I like the green. You look like you're in the Matrix.
Yeah, and I probably should put a headset on as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm awake enough for this, Leo. It's midnight.
I know, but you're so good. You're so good. You're so good. And I want to know what a topological sort is. So I need.
That's one of the other guys. That one. I don't know.
Isn't that crazy? I'm not doing a topological sort. I refuse.
Hang on. Let me see if this is working.
I guess my computer here has it synced, so I'll have to use GitHub. I did something dumb on day 5. Hey, who's that? Hey, is that Darren Oakey? Oh my God, look at you. You live in the woods.
Yes.
That's so cool. Darren's in Sydney, which means it's even worse than it is for you, John. It's like 2 in the morning. What is it in Sydney?
No, I'm theoretically at work. It's 11:30.
Oh, it's in the morning. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, Discord video is terrible, so that's why we do this elsewhere. So you've already finished day 5, I'm sure.
I did, but I did it very badly.
I did it really badly, and I did it so badly that I am now stuck on part 2. But I think I have a sense of what I could do in part 2. What I did, this is the example. I created a hash table which mushed up all of the examples into one per number. So 75 has a list of numbers that it's before, etc. Yeah. And that actually worked fine for part 1. This is the parsing I did here. Yeah, you can't really see this. I should really get Emacs working. And then, so that worked, but I used some sort of weird trick. I did an intersection of the remaining stuff in the update with the rule, and if they were equal length, then I said, okay, we're good. or something like that. Anyway,
I
it worked
noticed someone
fine.
doing something like that for part 2, and it actually worked. But
Uh,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it should have.
yeah, I feel like this was cheating. It was a very cheeseball solution, but it's not useful in part 2 because all it does is say that 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 update is correct or not. And I need to go back now and find out where the error is, because then I can do a swap, I think, and then go back through it. So, but that's not
I
what we're
went
here.
down. I went down so many bad routes. I did it really badly.
Paul, you don't need to send video. That's okay if you don't want to. It's up to you.
Someone
It
has
could
the
just be
stream open.
me and
Oh, can you
Darren.
hear me?
Yeah. Who's that? Is that
That was
Paul?
me. Oh,
Hi, Paul.
Can
Yeah,
you
we
still
can
hear
just
me,
do-
Leo?
Yeah, and I can hear you,
Okay.
John. You don't have to send video if you want. I'm not as close to just meet Darren though again because I only know the voice of Darren, not the
There's a lot of buzz coming in from John.
Is that?
John's always. Yeah,
Oh, shit, sorry.
It's like a ground noise.
it's a ground loop.
Where's this coming from?
So Darren finished part 1 and 2 of 5. Paul, you finished part 1 and 2 of 5. Yes.
yep. I found a
John, have you-
solution to 5 last night that didn't match the.
You did the
probably
topological
expected
sort.
one. No, actually,
Who did
the
I noticed
topological
as
sort?
I was trying. That was Sideface.
I was very impressed that Darren said, "Oh yeah, I saw that," but Darren, you didn't use it.
Well, I tried about 10 different things, but eventually I realized. Well, I don't want to completely spoil it for you, but the one I did eventually was only a couple of lines of code, but it took me
Oh wow, nice.
a long time to get there.
Well, that's right. That makes sense. Concision is often the result of labor.
So
Who
if
was
you
it
look at
said?
the picture
I would
that
have written you a
posted in
shorter
the-
letter, but I didn't have time. Mark Twain, I think.
No, yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
If you look at the little picture of the graph that I posted in the Discord chat,
The BFS that you did. Yeah.
yeah, that'll give you a hint of how you can do it without actually doing the graph, because he gives you a fully mapped out, for every. If you think of the order of them, just pretend they're in order 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, down to 1. 10 will have 9 books or 9 pages in front of it. 9 will have 8 in front of it.
Right.
8 will have 7 in front of it. So you can
Right.
just use
I
that
noted
information
that. Yeah, I did note that in passing when I looked at. I wish I could get my Emacs up because I had I could show you the. Let's turn this off. I could show you the hash. So what I did is I was telling Darren I did a hash table of the rules with each number having a list of numbers that it had to precede. And at that point, I did note that even though they didn't give you the updates in order, well, actually, the updates are all the same length in the input, which befuddled me initially. John, what'd you do? I saw you there, and then you disappeared.
You saw me frozen there, yeah.
Ah, and I hear the buzz too.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get a new headset, aren't I?
I'm with
Sorry
you.
about that. I'll mute.
So, but we're not here really to discuss day 5 as much as just the first 5 and what we've noted and so forth. I have to say the first thing I noted was day 5 wasn't anything like day 5 last year, which was a nightmare. And I was really afraid after I did the first part of day 5, I thought, oh, I know now there's going to be it's going to be ranges of pages we're going to have to look at, or there's going to be an exponential something or other. And he didn't do that to us, which was very nice of him. So, we
Yeah, I
didn't have to nerd harder.
never actually. My graph skills are kind of weak. I never really ran into graphing problems in my professional coding life, and I don't remember ever encountering them even in school. So every time I get a graph problem, I kind of rely on other people to learn from them. And so I learned after I found my own solution, I learned what a topological sort was.
And
So
Sci-Face
it was
used that.
useful. Yeah.
Sci-Phase is on, but we're not hearing him. I think he's having
Did you
audio.
hear me?
Ah, we hear you now.
Yeah.
So would you describe what a topological sort is?
So I think you were showing that graph picture that Paul
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah.
I think like a visual aid might be useful.
I'll show it again if I can find it.
So
Let's see.
basically, for anyone who doesn't know, a graph is a set of nodes and a set of edges between those nodes. So here's an example of a graph.
And you see this a lot in pathfinding because you're going from point A to B to C, and the edges are the paths between the points.
Yeah, so it's so a topological sort is basically, and there's not one order necessarily that a graph can have, but what a topological sort is a way to order the nodes, say left to right, so that all the edges point in the same direction.
Ah.
And you can
And
see in this
So
image,
a
even if
topological sort
if you look at
I was going to say it's good for
Paul.
solving
Paul,
the
go ahead.
problem of finding a critical path in a network of nodes like they use for project planning, because it's what things have to be done before other things. But there's not necessarily
Yeah.
always one specific path.
Right.
It just
But
turns out in this case he gave us a fully mapped graph.
So, like, for example, if you look at the image there, you see there's that edge going sort of from the node labeled 1 to the one labeled 2.
Yeah.
If you take out that edge, if you imagine that edge is not there, then the order of this could be 0, 1, 2, 3, or it could be 0, 2, 1, 3. So, there's not just one order necessarily. In this case, there is, because all the edges are, all pairs of nodes have an edge. So in this case, there is only one order. But if you were to take out that edge going from 1 to 2, then those two nodes in the middle could be in either order. And they would still all be, the edges would be all pointing in the same direction.
So let me step back a little bit and go to the Advent of Code site, because this is what we're talking about is day 5. And they called this print queue. And there's a lot of blather, which we can ignore. But what you're going to get in your input is a 2-part input, which is first a series of number pairs. And the numbers are, the significance of the numbers are 47 has to precede page 53. One of the first things I noted is there are a bunch of 47s, there are a bunch of 97s. So I just made a hash with 97 and then a list after the key is 97, and the value of the hash is all of the things that 97 has to precede. In this case, 13, 61, 47, 53, etc. So I had actually a much simpler, a bunch of rules. Maybe this wasn't the best way to do it, but it seemed to me that I could get something out of that. I did it in part 1, so I guess it worked. And then we have these, what they call the updates, what he's calling the updates, which is a list of integers. And the idea is you have to look at each update and see if it's in order based on the rules. In other words, does 75 always have to precede 47? They're not in numeric order. Does 47 always have to precede 61, 53, and 29? Does 61 have to precede 53 and 29, et cetera, et cetera? And in fact, the first 3 are in order. The second set, the 4, 5, and 6 in the list are not in order. And then as usual, he gives you just a silly little task, which is, okay, figure out which ones are in order and then give me the middle number. They're all odd numbers of pages. Then give me the middle number, add them together, and give me the answer, which is just a little fill up at the end. But the real trick is to say, how can I figure out if these are in order? The problem is when you get to part 2, you don't just have to figure out an order. You have to figure out what changes you have to make to put them in order. This is going to be a spoiler for, I'm not going to go to part 2 because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't yet solved part 1. And we should probably go step back a little bit Is that the real Jason Calacanis in there? Jason, I've been coding since I was in my 20s, always as a hobby. And this is just part of the fun of being a hobbyist coder, is solving these coding challenges. This is the best, as far as I'm concerned, the best coding challenges out there. There are many. We were looking at Everybody Codes earlier last month to prepare for this. There's, of course, the Euler problems. There's leak code, hacker rank. There's a bunch of these. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if you all agree. Pardon me?
I just wanted to point out, I said, while you have this picture up of the site, I just want to point out, it appears we have a Christmas tree and a red-nosed reindeer.
Yes. Oh, yes. So we have enough of it to know. Because I haven't fully solved 5, I don't have the full color version of line 5. And in 4 hours, we'll get day 6 because it's an Advent calendar. Get an Advent of code the first 25 days of December. There are 2 parts to each day. We started, and we were doing this online. You can go back and watch our online solving. We started with the first day was fairly simple. In fact, very simple. Second day got a little harder. I noticed my solving times went up about 10 minutes for me each time. Of course, the first 4 I was solving on air. I decided last night.
Might be a good time to show the stats page, Leo.
Oh yeah, this our leaderboard or the general stats?
No, the stats page, the one beside where you're clicking.
Yeah.
There.
Here's the stats page. What does this mean?
I scroll down.
Yeah, you
Well,
can't quite.
All I can see is the top.
I'm
I can't.
Yeah, let's get
There you
rid
go.
of the that scroll. Yeah. Oops. I have to go back this way to get.
Anyway,
rid
you
of the
can see
scroll.
here how many people have attempted to and solved. Well, I guess not attempted, but how many people have. So the silver number is how many people have completed part 1, and the gold number is how many people have completed both parts. So you
Right.
see the number of people quickly declining as the challenge goes up.
What's
And this
impressive
the same
is
every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been doing this since 2015, and what's impressive is how many more people are doing it every year. This year, 185,000 people started it. That number has dwindled by yesterday, last night. Only
User IDs, and we're in the 4 millions.
4 million user IDs.
There are over 4 million people. Yeah.
But
counts.
so that's it. That right there is the first culling from 4 million people who looked at it to 185,000 who solved the first one. And then the second half you see is grayed out. What is that? That's the number of people who got the second part or only solved one part.
Gold is second, silver is first. He's showing.
Okay. So these are the people who solved got 1 star but didn't get a second star.
Right.
Most of the people, as you can see, who got the first star, I would imagine were able to get the second star. But it does dwindle. It does dwindle.
And that's going to change. There are going to be some days where the number in silver is going to be higher than the number in gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
you could go back
the
and
first
show
one's
last
usually
year's
easier.
chart if you wanted to, Leo, and that would
Yeah,
give,
sure. Let's do that.
Give a better
Yeah,
example.
you can see a full year. So let me go to the Advent of Code
If you click on events,
2023.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I actually got to day 22 on that one, and with Paul's urging, almost got to the end. So this is what a full year looked like, and you can see we have a lot more people participating. Look at
number 5.
Day 5 was the one that killed me, but oops, didn't mean to do that.
33,000 people couldn't or didn't do the second half.
Right. And you could see that some people just skipped over it because we got back to a larger number when we went to the next day.
Yeah.
Next day was a lot easier. 5 was a lot of fun, though.
And the same
once you
thing
got
again
past
on
it-
day 8. There was a lot of people who didn't like the second part.
Yeah. So the guy who does this, Eric Wastel, spends, I think, at least 6 months of the year preparing these problems, has quite a few helpers. He does a first run through, I think, in Perl. He provides a different set of inputs, a number of different sets of inputs so that everybody gets different answers, which keeps you from cheating. And then he will pass this along to his testers who rank it in terms of difficulty. So you can't fully blame Eric for the fact that day 5 last year got so miserably difficult. His testers maybe were really good at that kind of code. What? So you guys are all pro coders. I'm a hobbyist. John Arnold, you're a web developer, right?
Yeah, these days I'm a web developer. I started out as a proper coder, but
And
it's
you
been
went
a few
to
years.
school for this and so forth. All of you have
No,
CS
I got a
degrees.
physics degree. I
Physics.
got a
Okay.
physics, yeah.
There's a lot of coding in modern day physics.
Well, there is
That's a
now.
pretty
There
common.
wasn't when I did it.
I think that's a pretty
Let me
common
see.
career path to start in physics and then get into coding. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
very
not like
common.
everyone does
Yeah.
that, but it's very common. I
Yeah.
think that reminds me of Cliff
Paul-
Stahl. That's how he.
That's right.
got
Cliff
into
Stahl's
it.
a physicist. Yeah, but he ended up being a chaser of hackers in the cuckoo's nest, and then now he makes Klein bottles. So, Paul, are you? Did you study computer science?
Yeah, I got into computers at like age 6. I got my first VIC-20 when in the summer between, age 13, grade 6 and grade 7. My aunt was worked for the university as a resource person that ordered computers for the
Oh, cool.
staff at the university, and she
cool.
had a side job typing in typing in people's graduate student theses. And she took me for a day to give my mom a break into the store which she worked at part time, where she used their typing their word processing systems, and that's where I saw the VIC-20. And she let me photocopy the owner's manual and take it home with me. And I learned
nice.
to program in BASIC from the owner's manual for the VIC-20 before I even
Yeah.
had one.
Yeah.
So then, I knew pretty much from that point forward that I wanted to be in computers, and so
It's so
in
much
university
fun.
I did a computer science degree.
Yeah.
Technically a Bachelor of Science in computer science, but
I came at it in kind of a similar way. I was in my 20s, though, when I got my first Atari, a 2600, then an Atari 400, then an Atari 800, then a PC, then, then a Mac, and on the way up. But I always coded. I really love coding. I wrote an assembly language, 68,000 assembly language on my Mac. But it was always a hobby. I've never attempted to do it for real. Because one of the things I learned as a DJ, I got into radio because I thought, oh, it's so much fun to be a DJ in college. And then once I was doing it professionally, I realized it takes kind of the fun out of it often to work at it something as opposed to be pursuing it as a hobby.
It depends. I think there's still a lot of art in computers, and so there's a lot of realm. I mean, there's some jobs that you could do that are really just do this, and it's sort of monkey coding type thing. But I think people still don't know how to design programs, so there's still a lot of room for creativity.
Yeah.
in programming.
It's a very creative process. I mean, it's an art as much as a science. And that's one of the things you get from this advent of code. Everybody solves it somewhat differently. Everybody approaches it somewhat differently. There often is a, kind of, I don't want to say best practice, but there's often the main way people do it. But people do it in all kinds of different ways. There's somebody in our Club Twit Discord who's doing it in a array language called, how do you pronounce that? Uia?
yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that, but it looks a lot like APL.
It looks very much like you have to have a special keyboard to do it. That's for sure. Let me show you his solution from a few, was it yesterday or a few days ago, I think. It was very concise. I guess that's the advantage of it. It certainly wasn't a spoiler for me. By the way, this is our Club Twit Discord. We have Paul started the Advent of Code 2024. We've had one for a couple of years now. I showed you that I was showing that leaderboard earlier. We have quite a few people participating. Let me see if I can find the UIA, which is a lot like an APL. Maybe it's way far back here.
So interesting story from my university days. I worked for the computer services division. I looked after their printers and stuff. But one of my jobs I was given one summer was to go around and apply the APL stickers to the keyboards. We used IBM, actual IBM computers with IBM, the
Wow.
Model N keyboards.
Wow. Yeah. So I guess you must have to have a UIA keyboard. You'll see there's a lot of Greek letters.
Well, actually, I was looking at it out of curiosity, and you can type in the word, the verb, or whatever for the function, and it will convert it.
Oh,
to
and
the
then it
symbol.
turns it into. Oh, that's a better way to do it. Yeah. I'm scrolling back. I don't know if I can see it. Anyway, this is our thread. We do have a convention that we cover with the spoiler text so that people who are trying to solve it without getting any spoilers don't have to see it. Going back a little bit here. I feel
I thought
like
it was fairly recent.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I don't. If I could remember I could do a search. If I could remember how you spell it. Is it UAI? How do you spell UII?
UIUA.
UIUA. All right, there it
There it
is.
is. As
He spoiled it. He put a spoiler over it.
Oh, that
Not
we
that
were looking
that's-
for the picture.
Yeah, I don't think looking at that helps anyone.
Not that that's gonna.
Oh, it's got something to do with the string mass. Something to do with that. Yeah.
The string mass. This was what, day 3 that we did this? This was very fun, actually, I thought. Day 3, we were.
wasn't
Was it day 4? Was it that recent? Okay.
Yeah.
We were
So that's
looking
when we
for
did
this.
online together.
That's right. It was. And you guys gave me a very, I thought, elegant hint. Sci-Phase, I think, did that. If I go to my GitHub, I can show you. He said, well, what if you did it as strings? And that was actually a really nice hint, Sci-Phase. Thank you. I presume that's how you did it, because I ended up with day 4. And this will be a spoiler. We're going to show part 2, so don't look. But we're trying to find these, what he calls X masses, which is the MAS in the form of an X. And as it turned out, there are really only 4 legal ways that can happen. And if you look from the northwest to the northeast to the southeast to the southwest, there are 4 different strings you can build out of that, these 4 different strings. And Sci-Phase gave me the insight that, well, then I all I have to do is a string compare, and I can tell if it's valid or not. And that was a very fast, easy way to do it. So thank you for that, Sci-Phase. That was kind of fun. That's part of the fun of doing it in the group, by the way, is that people help each other out, and it's been kind of fun. You also post your notes, Paul Holder, in our twit.community forums. So that's another place you can go.
Can I say thank you to the guys in the chat for last year? Last year was my first year getting to the end of day 25, completing the whole
You
thing.
did you got all 50
did.
stars, John Arnold. That's
But I
so,
would
so
not have
cool.
done that without the help of these guys here.
Yeah,
because,
well, I wouldn't have gotten to day 22 without a lot of help from you and everybody else.
I can't
But
believe you stopped. You were 3 days away.
Well,
Look, it's there. It's not going to go away. Those bricks are they're just floating there waiting for me to settle them. And one of these days, I got about halfway through that and I thought, what happens for me, and I think it does happen for some people, is it's not that I can't solve it. It's like I stop caring. And one of the advantages of doing this day and date, like day 5, do it 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, just do it and set down and do it, or at least do it the next day. If you try to keep up, that kind of forces you to stay interested. Look at our leaderboard. Sci-Phase is leading by a scant 10 points over Paul Holder, who's leading over even fewer points, 5 points over Darren Oakey. We don't know TY2K, do we? He's in there. Eric Veendahl, Torbjorn Peterson, Manny Ledoux. These have all done all 5. Whatever. John Arnold, you've done all 5. You see, I've done half. I only have that grayed out star. I still have to solve the second half of 5. Sarah has done all 5. Bits of 8. Morgan Davis. These are all this is our private leaderboard that John started 2 or 3 years ago. And there are a lot of people on it who haven't started yet. I'm going to say haven't started yet for this year. But these are all 34 people who have done at least one of the problems this year. So that's great. And it's fun to do it in a group like this. Best place to go is the Club Twit Discord. That's where most of the solving happens, even in Uaya. Here's the code for part 2 in Uaya.
If you want a crazier language, I just discovered Rockstar, and people are solving it in Rockstar.
There's one called Brain F. I can't say the full name, which is intentionally obscure. Is Rockstar intentionally obscure?
No. There's Brain F and there's White Space, which is even crazier than Brain F.
They're designed to be totally annoying.
No, but you got to pull up Rockstar codes on the web, and it's pretty crazy.
So his name is Rockstar?
No. It's a coding language called Rockstar.
Oh, okay.
There's a website, Rockstar Code. That's a program, and that's it. Also,
oh, it's a poem. Yeah.
No, it's 80s song lyrics.
There are other languages like that which are poetic. That so my dreams hold diamond nightmares means something in coding, right?
Yeah. No, if you click rock and run it,
it's a FizzBuzz. This is FizzBuzz.
Nightmares to something else.
That's hysterical. So this is a kind of canonical coders problem called FizzBuzz, and every coder's done a FizzBuzz, but this is are those actual are those
you can change the code. Just change the word nightmares to dreams or something like that,
and then what will happen?
You'll see.
I'm guessing salvation is a variable, because Whisper My Dreams with salvation is probably print. Salvation holds the C. That's finding something's salvation.
Yeah,
you guys
and
are
rock
nuts.
is a push operation.
Wow.
LizBuzz.
Wow. So I've changed it to LizBuzz by changing it
because
to
you get
dreams.
the ASCII code from the number of characters in the word.
Here's a thank you. Sci-Phase has given us a link to the Esoteric Programming Language Wiki. ESO Lang's.
I hope Perl is the first entry on that one.
Featured is the Thu or Thue. Wow. Yeah, it's one of the things programmers do, which I think honestly is somewhat of a waste of time, is come up with their own languages. Everybody seems to like, well, I have to write my own language. I guess you learn about compilers and so forth by doing that. So this is
I hope I die never having invented my own
these esoteric ones are just for fun, really.
Yeah. Esoteric programming languages. That is hysterical. It's like learning Esperanto. It's of limited utility, but you can be proud that you've done it. I hear a kitty cat. Who's got the kitty cat in the background?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering if you might. That's mine.
All right, I love it.
She wants to get into the office.
So Leo, are you familiar with the it's mathematical? There's a site of canonical listing of mathematical sequences, and you can like put in a sequence and look up
the online
what it's called
encyclopedia of integer sequences. OEIS.
Oh yeah. So anyway, I was just thinking someone should use that in the form of Rockstar. So you just put in mathematicals into code. That would be pretty bizarre.
So the idea is you enter a sequence here, and it tells you.
So if you happen to, sometimes there's puzzles that are out there, like if you put in
you see a sequence.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fibonacci.
3, 5, 8, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just a useful tool if you ever have that problem. But I was just thinking you could use this tool also as a way to do the same idea as Rockstar.
Well,
see how many sequences you can turn into programs.
There you go. All right. You see, this is what happens to programmers after a little too much time spent behind the keyboard. I think they go a little bit crazy. So, what will we say about so far the first 5 days of the advent of code? Is this a good year so far? I feel like it's been pretty fun. Yeah.
Day 4 rocked. I loved Day 4.
The Xmas?
Yeah, the Xmas thing. I thought that was awesome.
I loved it too. But I have to say, without Sci-Phase, Darren, and Paul, I don't know if I would have loved it quite so much. I noticed solving 5 alone is not nearly as fun and not nearly as easy. You guys give me hints in exactly the right time and place. But it was fun, John. I wish you'd joined us for that. But I know it's 5 a.m. for you when they release the code.
Yeah, I'm not awake when this is why I'm never going to get to the top of that leaderboard, because you guys get to do it immediately it launches, and I've got to wait until the next morning.
Well, happened with me for the past 4 or 5 years is I start off okay. I can keep up with you at first because they're easy. But right about now, I start to the race starts to get ahead of me, and I'm going, oh wait. And by last year, it was July before I got to day 22. Partly because no, I have no excuse. That's exactly how long it took me.
It's around about day
Well,
20
here's-
when these guys start leaving me behind.
They're good. They're really
Yeah, they're
good.
really good.
Here's an
Really
It-
good.
Darren, one of the
Interesting
things I think
exercise,
you and
Leo.
Paul do
Maybe
is you
let's
can
go-
look at these things, and I think the fastest solvers do, and kind of immediately go, "Oh, that's a depth first search or something like that."
Yeah, but part of it is just like I went through all of them, right? So a lot of these I've just seen it before.
It's
or
experience,
seen
yeah.
variation of it before because there's only so many of these sort of
Right.
things. And he has very similar themes, and also some things. We've got standard patterns. Like I've got the standard pattern for reading a grid, right? So
Right.
it takes
You've
me
already
most-
written that code many times.
Yeah, I can just type it out, that line
Right.
of code to parse a grid. So
Right.
it takes 2 seconds and I've got it in a variable. And so things like that help. Like you go, oh, it's a grid, and you don't think, you just
Right. Oh,
turn it
grid.
into
Type
a
out.
variable.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I like doing this, especially with you guys, because Paul and I were talking the other night about sparse hashes, which was something you kind of filled us in on, and it was like, oh, it was a light bulb moment. Very often with these grids, you have squares you care about and squares you don't care about. And what often is the case, your temptation is to make just an array, a 2D array or a 3D array. But there are problems with that. You have to do bounds checking, and a lot of the array is wasted because you don't care about it. So when you explained what the sparse grid is, it's a hash table, not an array, only containing squares that you care about. And it has the secondary advantage of there's no bounds checking necessary, because if it's not in the hash, it either doesn't exist or it's off the grid and you don't care about it. But you don't have any, out of bounds stuff. Everything's okay. You don't.
And also he always pulls up one of those space ones that really tricks some people up, with really big numbers in it. And it doesn't.
Right.
If you're using this hash, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I
right.
was actually going to suggest maybe we should go look. I think it was day 24 last year, which was the one that was in 3D space with numbers that are, in the billions. And
I don't
that's
have
a
any
good
code
example
of
something
that,
like
of course.
No.
But I can show you the problem if you want to do that.
Well, I was just going to say maybe that's like one of the harder problems. It might be an interesting way to, might be an interesting discussion about how to solve such a problem.
All right, let's go to day. We're going to go to the code, or the problem anyway, of day 24. Never tell me the odds. That's kind of a hint.
That was the throwing a snowball to hit something falling out of the air, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the actual
one's
input,
crazy.
the numbers are insane.
What about
in
that
the
one that
actual
was?
input.
There was a universe one, wasn't there, where they added rows into
Oh my
the grid.
God. So you see how big these numbers are, and there's a lot of them. And so, yeah, that scares
for
somebody
this-
like me, because I know I'm going to overflow. My machine can't handle it. But I have learned from you guys modulo math that really does help in something like this. Was this one where modulo math was the key?
No, it's that. I mean, he makes the claim that any number that he'll use will fit in a 64 or 63-bit integer with a sign bit, so a 64-bit integer, and these all fit within what you would call
Okay.
long in C or just a long in Java.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about Lisp. Everything is a giant integer, but you can quite easily, if you start adding those together, get out of bounds. He also claims, and this is the about page, he also claims you don't need a computer science background, just a little programming knowledge and some problem solving skills. He also says you don't need a fancy computer. Every problem has a solution that completes in at most 15 seconds on 10-year-old hardware. I have found problems that don't complete in within a day. That's, of course, because I haven't done
I think
the
this
right
is all
thing.
bunk. I think a lot of
Of course, he's had
a
that
lot of what you
for the
a
last
lot of
9
the
years, so.
solutions are pure computer science solutions where
I agree. I think computer
if you've
science
done a
helps.
computer science degree, you are
Yeah.
going to have some of the tools you need already.
Yeah.
Because
But
we can all teach ourselves, and that's what we're doing. But
That's what we're doing.
Well,
Absolutely. I never
Well,
heard
so
of the
that-
Chinese
that-
remainder theorems. Or a
That's why
state
I
machine, which I learned
mentioned-
about last year.
That's why I mentioned
Well,
that
that's a-
particular
that's
problem, because
definitely-
that one was actually a math problem, and John needed some help with the math. Is all he needed.
Oh, interesting.
Once we,
yeah, I really
once
did.
we showed him how the math worked out, he could get it on his own.
Bravo. What was the math? I mean,
That was a year ago,
Right.
Leo. I've got no idea.
that's the other problem is it's only 1 month out of 12, and unless it's me, in which case it's
As a wise man once
think
said,
I-
I wrote it down
I think
so
I
I
might-
wouldn't have to remember.
Go ahead,
Let me
Paul.
see if I still have. I think I still have it here somewhere. Just a second. I'll post it online.
Doug
if I
is
can-
in here
if I have
too. Hi, Doug. Are you solving these with us?
Yeah, hey Leo. Yeah. Yeah, I've been just using JavaScript to experiment with doing that.
Are you on the leaderboard yet, or have
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, I solved today's both part 1 and part 2.
Oh, nice. So you've done all 5.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I don't see you on our leaderboard, Doug, unless you're using a different name. Oh, there you are. Doug Mason, is that you?
Yep, that's me. Yep.
All right. Well, you've got to get your stars in there so we can. But you are on the leaderboard towards the bottom, Doug. I'm not gonna lie, but
Oh,
if
this
you
is
get
the previous
those.
year you're looking at, Leo. That's 20.
Oh, that's
Previous
why,
last year.
Doug.
Yeah,
I
I only did-
apologize.
I only
Thank
did
you.
one last year.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Doug. I mean, whoever was that said that, Darren.
Yeah, if you go to our private leaderboard, you'll
Yeah,
see that.
private leaderboard here. This is nice, and if you
It encouraged me to actually go do them because
good for you. There he is, Doug Mason. Very nice 5 stars. Of course, you get higher on the leaderboard by solving them faster. And,
yeah, for me, I'm in Central, so it's like
right.
I don't really want to always stay up till.
No.
It's what it comes out at what on
For you,
midnight
11
Eastern?
p.m. Yeah.
11 p.m. Yeah,
As
I'm
a-
like, I don't know.
As I mentioned earlier, though, there's a very unfortunate aspect of the way it is that it's very dependent on who did the best on the first couple of days.
That's right.
Because it's
heavily
your
weighted.
position. So
Yeah.
if 12 people beat you on the first day, and then only by the 10th day only 2 people are playing, then you can only pick up 1 point, whereas in the first day you lost 24 points.
Right.
So whoever wins the first 2 days probably wins the whole thing.
That's why the
Gotcha.
leaderboard is not important. Especially when you consider the real leaderboard, which we can go to here.
Which I'm
quickly.
nowhere on the real leaderboard, so yeah. I don't
Yeah,
really
the real
care.
leaderboard, these guys are and there's some controversy on the real leaderboard, by the way. These guys are solving it very, very quickly. Day 5, we'll look at some of the times here. This guy did it in 55 seconds. This guy did it 1:01. There was some controversy on day 1 because the first, this guy solved both of them.
I mean, day
9
1 was pretty simple, but 9
It
seconds,
was.
so yeah, I don't see that. Yeah.
9 seconds. Well, it turned out he used an LLM. He used an AI, and he did not. He apologized later. Said, "I didn't know the rules. I'm so sorry." He confessed to using an AI, and you could tell because he did it 9 seconds, and the next fastest one was a minute. So it was unreasonable to type it in and get the answer that quickly.
9 seconds. Yeah, no way.
Yeah. And so, but even then, if you look at the leaderboard, the first 100 people yesterday all solved it within, let's say, 3 minutes and 43 seconds, right?
Wow, that's
So
they're very
these-
quick. They're very quick typers.
Well, this is why
Yeah.
I don't worry about leaderboards because these are professional, I don't know professional, but very serious competitive coders. There's a book, I started reading a book on how to be a competitive coder, and a lot of it is, I mean, it's not, I don't think I would enjoy it. I like thinking.
I've done every puzzle and every one, and once for part 2 I got in the top 100.
Very nice.
But that's the thing.
I remember that. It was a couple of years ago when you did that. Yeah, I remember that.
That's so far ahead of us. It's crazy.
I think my best day was 2019, day 2, which was the first day of Ink Code. I got 40th place part 2 on that one.
Yeah, sci phases are like you're usually in the lead on all of these. You're very, very fast. Let me see if I can find just to show you on YouTube. Here's a guy who placed 29th. Let's watch
Okay,
him.
Ivanhoe Code 2024. Here we come.
I'll turn off his sound
Jonathan
We're given
Paulson, yeah,
a list,
because
and
he's
we want
he's going to
to.
solve this in just a couple of minutes. And when you watch these guys working, you can see that I don't know what they're in a different world. That's all. They usually have a lot of tools which make it possible. Let's see here. I have to zoom in because
Yeah, it looks like they're using Vim or Neil Vim or something.
yeah, and there is an advantage if you've got a lot of Vim code.
Yes, yeah.
You can automate a lot of this very quickly. So these guys work very quickly and in a kind of a different way. I mean, look, I'm never going to be a Formula One driver either, but I enjoy the trip along the way. I think it's a lot of fun, and the advent of code is always a great pleasure to do. So I'll leave this for you as an exercise to watch these speed demons because they're really quite impressive. But at the same time, they're living, in my opinion, in a very different world from the rest of us. What else do we want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the strategies you used in days 1 through 5? Is there anything to say about that? Darren, what did you do for the Christmas problem? Did you have anything special that you used for that?
It was very similar to what we did. So, I mean, obviously, for all these direction ones, I use these same ones. So I have the grids, I have a collection of directions, I have the add point, so I can easily move around.
I had to write all of that from scratch.
Yeah. So I basically did what Cyphers did and just pulled out the 4 corners. Although I had just a nested if instead of comparing against the strings, but yeah, I just pulled out the 4 corners.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You have those 4 corners, and the only trick
Yeah,
on
I
that
did
is to
something
get in the
similar,
right
yeah.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the string compare. I thought that really was kind of
For
sweet.
the one that was shaped in an X, the mass, yeah, there was just like I realized that was just a 3x3 grid basically, so you could
Right.
scan through. Yeah.
Yeah, quite quick and fast.
Mhm.
That's a good thing. Is at the start, like later on, we can't brute force anything, but in the first 2 weeks, you can basically just
they're trivial
scan
enough.
everything, loop everything.
Yeah.
Right,
So that's
it's not going to slow down too much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sometimes I call that the naive solution, where you just go, well, if I just test every example and I'll find the answer. And of course that works when it's a simple problem, but as the problems get more and more difficult, and he does that. I think Eric designs it cleverly to make sure that you can't brute force towards the end; that you really have to know what you're doing, or come up with a strategy. Sci-Phase, you're going to go all the way, right? Every day, you're going to finish it.
That's my plan. Yeah.
You too, Darren. Are you planning every day of?
Yeah, but it was only 2 years ago that I really tried. Like, now if I need to go out, I'll go out and I'll do it the next day. It's not.
Yeah, I have dancing class tonight. I'm not going to be. That's the thing that's also very interesting is he's doing this in a month where people often have a lot of obligations, but I think coders are often kind of lonesome souls, and maybe this is a way of taking some of the sting out of the holidays, giving us something to do on days when we might be maybe a little bit more lonely. Paul,
the worst thing is the hardest ones are on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, Christmas doesn't he usually give you an
Christmas dinner?
Doesn't on the 25th he gets it's like there's usually only one star, right?
Only one.
Yeah, I've never been there, so I don't know.
But it's a hard one.
It's like it's one star.
Day 24 is
and then the other
dinner
is
prep,
Yeah.
I remember you guys doing paper cube models.
Oh, that was the worst puzzle ever. That wasn't Christmas Day, but I hated that one.
I think 2022 it was you had to do a weak version of RSA crypto.
What?
On Christmas Day.
Oh, really? Wow.
Were you factoring primes? What were you doing?
Well, it's basically it's either that or Diffie-Hellman. Anyway, it's basically you're multiplying primes or factoring them. Yep. Basically.
That might take me a while. I don't-
Those are the ones I enjoy. Not those, obviously, but the ones I enjoy are where you're making a Tetris, sort of a Tetris game, or a Sudoku solver, or things like that. Those are kind of fun because I think we had a snake game one year, didn't we? Those are kind of fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then there are often, of course, the path solving ones, and that's actually been great for me because I never even thought about it, and to think of Edgar Dijkstra standing on the street corner waiting for his girlfriend, and thinking about path solving and coming up with an algorithm that is still used 50, 100 years later by everybody to solve paths is pretty impressive. It takes a while to learn Dijkstra or to grok Dijkstra, but once I grokked it, it was kind of cool. And then
We
there's
have to do
A-star.
all of that stuff in real life, in my job.
Yeah, I would think so because it's in gaming. You do it all the time, or flood fills, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, we were in electronic trading. One of the things is you've got what's called these spreads. So if you've got a price for sort of May, July, and a price for July, August, then you can infer a May, August price. So you've got to put these things. We've created an inference engine that used like Floyd Warshall to do all of this, to basically fill out the spread matrix. So all this stuff has some real applications.
I remember when I had to figure out Floyd Warshall. I don't think I ever solved that one. That was 2 years ago because you had to use Floyd Warshall first and then some sort of Dijkstra or A-star subsequently, and it was I just stopped. But it was cool to know Floyd Warshall. Not a very efficient algorithm, but sufficient for many issues.
Actually, I guess it was Christmas Day 2020 that was the cryptographic one. If you want to bring it up or whatever. But
Sure, you want to look at it? Oy.
The
I've never gotten to a Christmas
the instructions
day,
are
so-
pretty clear, or at least. I mean, he tells you pretty much the steps you have to do.
You need so I will I'll show this one. This is where I got on 2020. Let me full screen, which is to day 7. But once the thing is over, you can actually go, I think, to Christmas Day. Yeah, here we go. Combo breaker. So you have an RFID card. Examining the card, you discover a phone number for tech support. The only other option would be to reverse engineer the cryptographic handshake the card does with the door, then inject your own commands into the data stream. But they tell you that's definitely impossible. This is Christmas Day, folks. This is Eric's gift to you. Holy cow. And you solved this one, huh, Paul? I guess all of you did.
I mean, I have a
I didn't.
background in cryptography, actually. So but
Oh, nice. John, is that you saying I didn't?
Yeah, I started, I think, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, last year was my
So you
first year
missed this,
completing it.
you lucky
The
guy.
previous years,
Yeah.
I flaked out around about 20.
Well, that's another thing I would tell people is that you can actually go back to all of these problems and solve them. In fact, usually before December 1, I go back through a few of them in the previous years to warm up.
This is one thing I don't think people talk about enough. Is it's not just the puzzles, but this website and all of his design around it. It's just so brilliant. Like
Yeah.
everything, you just change a number and it goes. The leaderboard, you can just swap between. Just put a different date in and it all goes. It's just such a clever design. It's
He
very
is
smart.
amazing. He day 2 there was a DDoS attack. When we got to midnight Eastern on day 2, we got a 505 gateway error, and he is Topaz on Reddit, and in the subreddit, Topaz showed up and said, "Yeah, we were DDoSed." But then again, he solved the DDoS, fixed it within 30 seconds. So pretty impressive work from Eric Wastel. He obviously knows what he's doing. He works for, he used to work for Cinecore. He works now for some sort of, it's a gaming
Like a
card
trading
company.
card company or something.
Yeah. But I think he's probably spends a lot of his time on this. I mean,
He also
must.
created Vanilla.js. which is quite a funny.
He
song.
did Vanilla JS, right, which is very impressive. Yeah, he's a kind of legendary figure. Does everybody here does it in Python? Yes, except for Paul. You do it in Java.
Yeah, I'm a Java guy.
It lends itself
I
to
prefer
Perl and
a
Python.
typed language.
You don't need a typed language for this.
I do like a typed language, but I just been using JavaScript for this. Yeah, this is just because this is for fun. I've been just learning.
Yeah,
more
I do it
about
in
JavaScript.
Common Lisp because I don't know. I don't know. I'm twee.
To
I don't
screw
know.
with us.
Just to screw with you guys. But you know what?
Just to make sure we can never debug your code.
I mean, it just reminds me of Objective C, but instead of
Yeah.
parentheses, square
The
brackets.
thing you have to remember about Common Lisp is because it's older than any of the languages you guys are using, it influenced all of those languages.
Yeah.
So there's
That's
reasons it looks a little like Objective C or JavaScript or a whole bunch of things because it was very much an
It's actually the
influence
other
on
way
it.
around. They look like Common Lisp.
That's right. They all look like Common Lisp. Anyway, I like Common Lisp, and it's just I feel like I don't want to learn any new dialects. So I
After
did
the
play
last
with
week,
Julia
I
for a
feel-
little bit, which I really like quite a bit. But the only reason I couldn't use Julia is because it indexes its arrays at
At
1.
one.
Yeah, that's not okay.
That's because every other language is at 0.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't.
Heresy.
After the last
most
week, I feel like
languages
I
anyway.
know Common Lisp a lot better.
Yeah, right. Watching me do that. It's prefix, which confuses some people, but prefix makes a lot of sense
That
in
has
coding
its
language.
advantages.
Yeah.
If you want to do multiple operations.
Yeah, because
on a
I could do plus
uh,
1, 2, 3,
adding-
4 and add all
yeah.
all 4 of them.
addition, multiplication. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons why it makes sense to put the function at the beginning of a parent.
Yeah.
Inside the parenthesis.
The syntax doesn't look that weird to me. I mean, I read about, I don't know, a third of the interpretation of computer programs.
SICP, yes,
Yeah.
structure interpretation computer program.
And so
That's in Scheme.
I kind of figured out the syntax.
Yeah.
In Scheme. Yeah.
Yeah,
The only thing
and
that always messed with me is the how you do the closures, because
closures are super cool. I have not had to use closures much last year.
it seems weird to me because it's hard to
Yeah, last year
am
I
I
used a closure and it was
inside, or
really
is
a
it
great. Let me see if I can remember
closure?
what
Yeah.
day that was that we did the closures on.
or a lambda, right? Is that what they call that?
Well, lambdas are just anonymous functions. It's just a function without a name. But closures are very cool. Closures are functions, and it's a functional language, but they're functions that preserve state in between invocations.
Mhm.
And there is that's useful occasionally. I did it on one of the ones last
So that's
time.
like a generator in Python.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. A lot of the ideas, Python contains a lot of the ideas from Lisp, more and more all the time, I just don't remember which one it was. I also was able to
Closure
use
in Python is just, you have a function that returns a function essentially.
Right.
So,
in Lisp, you do a let before the function, which establishes a local variable, but that variable persists through invocations. I was also able to use a common Lisp. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. I always do this. I don't want all my commits. I just want the code. Common Lisp has a really elegant, I think, object system called close that is a little bit closer to Alan Kay's concept in Smalltalk. And so I haven't used it much, but I was able to use it in day 20 last year. And it was this was the one where you had the flip-flops. And I remember, Paul, you had flip-flop issues. But
But yeah, because I don't have that background. I never
Right.
used a flip flop before. So
Right.
the way he described it was really. I would never have been able to solve that problem without reading other people's solutions.
Yeah. Well, that's for me almost always. So I'm not going to knock that.
Oh, like a flip flop in like a circuit. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well,
yeah.
I think
And so this was
Sci-Fi said to me that a flip flop is like a memory, and once I realized that it was holding
Yes,
its
exactly.
value, then it was like,
It'll hold
okay,
its
now
value,
it makes sense.
So day 20, that was you
think
were
that's
kind of
similar.
designing a circuit, and you were sending signals through the circuit. So it was it led itself well to. I know everything you do is object oriented.
Oh, you did that. Oh, wow. You did that in Lisp. Wow.
I do everything in Lisp. That's
You do everything.
That's all I do now. I did Python. I've done Perl, assembly. I started with basic as everybody did, and then went right straight to C. And I loved C for a long time. I used C a lot. But in fact, that's probably if I weren't going to do it, and I don't know, Python's pretty good too. The problem with Python
Python's
for
not
me
bad, yeah.
is it's gotten very big, and I don't feel like I can absorb all of Python. That's the nice thing about Lisp. It's very simple. That's why it's often
I
used
want
in.
to comment,
Well,
by
this
the way,
stuff
Leo,
isn't-
that Java since version 8 has kind of a clone of the closure sort of thing that you can do. I'm
Yeah.
just not used to working that way. But if you
Yeah.
are like, Python has that too. Do it in Java too, in like a big long one-liner if you really
Right.
want to. But I just find I would rather express it out, more stepwise, because I guess I'm a more iterative sort of programmer.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
took me
think
a while
that
to get
I-
iterative out of my head, and stop thinking that way, because it really is a brain worm.
Yeah. I actually like.
I really like
functional very
functional.
much.
I
And
love functional because you can you can look at a
that.
function and say, every time given this input, it's going to give you that output. There's no side effects, and so that was a lot of fun for me to do this in the object oriented Lisp, and it was perfect for the flip flops and all that because they had to preserve state and so forth. I'm trying to remember where I used a closure. But anonymous functions you use all the time in Lisp. You're going to do a list comprehension, a map or a map car. You're going to take a list and apply a function to it. A lot of times you use a lambda, an anonymous function, because you don't want to write a whole function just for that
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I use that. I do that in Swift all the time.
Yeah.
That's the language I usually program
Yes,
in. Mostly.
Swift is functional,
yeah.
right? Swift is
It's like
primarily functional.
It's a neat hybrid. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
got a lot of procedural plus.
You went from
object-oriented
that's why
and-
you used Objective C. So you're a Mac programmer.
I'm Mac. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
iOS programmer. Yeah.
iOS, yeah.
But
I
Swift traits are weird. But anyway.
sorry.
Swift traits are a weird thing. So that's
Every language has, I think, an idiosyncratic.
Yeah.
Seems to have an idiosyncratic thing that makes it hard for people who are not in a closure has or Haskell rather has these it puts state inside I can't remember what it's called, but inside a thing. All the state is held inside this weird thing, and it's very hard
You're thinking of
to
monads?
rock for me. Huh? Monads, yeah.
That's, yeah.
All the states held in monads, and I just it
And
feels
then
like
it's a
they're
function that takes a
messing
value
with
and
me.
returns a value. It's a fancy concept for something really simple, which is a function that takes one thing and returns one thing.
Right.
So, and
Yeah,
that's enough.
sorry. That's yeah. But isn't that where all the side effects go? All the I/O and everything's in monads? No?
Well, they build everything with monads, but
Right.
yeah, the state it's sort of like the whole state is in this weird lazy evaluation world. Like if you imagine the world's inputs as just a stream, and you're just processing the next value and then moving on.
Well, that's why I like functional. I mean, and of course, Haskell is highly functional. It's rigidly functional. Lisp is not. Lisp is really multi-paradigm. Lisp, you could do imperative. You could do it in any way you want. That's the other reason I like it. Because sometimes imperative is the right way to solve something, or object-oriented, or pure functional, or whatever. Paul didn't like it that I wouldn't make a constant for some of my hashes and things, that I passed it around. And it is a little annoying after a while to keep passing everything around, but I'm just used to it now. I don't like to have globals. I don't. I refuse it. Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't use any globals. Kind of the thought stuff is you know.
And then encapsulate the state,
Ideally,
you know.
code in Java, you're using almost all immutable objects, and you're only using
Right.
immutability where you absolutely need it. And state is your mutable thing, so you want to have the least amount of state that you can get away with. 'Cause
Right.
That's how
The
you
state's
can have
all
things in
withheld, all
parallel.
held inside the object, right? The state's in the object.
Right. But even then, for
Mhm.
example, I take my input main program, like, so my framework is 3 classes. I have the main, which is the same every day, and it just takes the big string. I just put it in as a big string in my code and passes it into a part 1 and a part 2. And the part 1 and the part 2 will call whatever class I end up making to actually solve the problem. And that input basically stays the same, a constant all the way through. I just basically copy it into my class, and then I start processing it.
Right.
And a lot of times I don't actually need any other state in my solving class other than just the input. So it's all basically is immutable. You'll get the same result every time.
Right.
You won't have to worry about a state.
No, I love
interfering
that.
with-
I love that.
Right.
And
so in a lot of ways, I think the same way you do. It's just that I'm not thinking
you're keeping
of doing
it in a
parallel operations. I'm doing it iteratively, one little chunk at a time, instead of
Right.
saying, "Oh, I can do this to a whole list at a time."
Right. Well, and that's exactly what the flip-flop here did. It was a class which maintained its state, and then when you send a message to flip-flop, it does the right thing. Same thing with the conjunctions and the other ones. I thought, for instance, for this particular problem, object-oriented was absolutely the right way to do it. And it also, because I was able to do functions before and after calling a method, I was able to store to do some tallies and stuff that made it much easier. So yeah, I actually like object-oriented, although there's a debate in the object-oriented world about what Alan Kay meant. He claims you guys have completely misunderstood what I wanted to do. He says it's all about the messages. So anyway,
Right.
Close.
And multiple inheritance is kind of an abomination in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Don't get me
Because that was
started.
only like C++, really, right? Multiple
Yeah, that's
inheritance.
right. That's where you are. That's what you get. C++.
And
wanna
Objective-C was, they all incorporated messages. They took that to heart.
My wife asked me. She said, "Well, what language are people using, and is it the same language people use professionally?" And I think what I told her, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that things like Windows, big projects are usually written in C++. Unfortunately,
like Windows is written
Or
in
C#, yeah.
C++, but like for instance, in Morgan, we converted a number of projects. Like we were C++ at the start, and we converted a number of projects from C++ to Java, and every time we got a speed up, because even though C++ is nominally 1.7 times faster or whatever, in reality, the optimizations you get by having a higher level of abstraction gave us a much better solution and ultimately a faster solution.
isn't that interesting? That's not what you'd
And
expect.
not only that, but you would have got a whole lot of debugging safety. You're not going to get
Right.
you're not going to get array overwrites or memory overwrites in Java. It's just not possible.
And is it some of that because of the just-in-time Java compilers that
Well, it's
because
just was
the JIT
designed for
spell-
safety. It was originally, remember, it was invented originally to run on set-top boxes to decode cable
Right.
coming in from your cable
write
provider or
once,
whatever.
run everywhere? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
James Gosling,
because of the way it was designed, they've always had bounds checking was just an integral part. So,
Right.
when it was slower in the beginning because it was new technology, but these days the compilers for the language itself and for the interpreter, the JIT, or the virtual machine, which is basically just a glorious interpreter, it's been around for so long, it's so well optimized that it's
Yes, exactly.
really
and
really
it's not
fast.
just that. There's not just one of them. There's a whole bunch optimized for all different things.
Right.
So
Yeah, you got the
some of
CR,
them are really fast.
Microsoft.
I'm kind of surprised that you don't do the derivatives and stuff in Python because of the rapid application development. But
Oh, some of them people do. Like friends of mine are at City, and they actually use C++ for it. But other people actually, a lot of the quants are using Scala now.
Scala,
So there's all
because you get the
different
JVM in
things.
Scala, but you have a highly functional, actually almost a Lisp-like language on top of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's lots of different levels because you got the the ultra high frequency trading where you co-locate.
You need speed.
And you're putting things on FPGAs and
Right.
you're writing them in assembler, right?
Right.
And you're locating at the exchange. But
Right.
anything that's doing arb between two exchanges or something, you can't co-locate. And speed, you're not talking about microseconds, you're talking about milliseconds, and then
Right.
you can use a Scala or something.
That
But
makes
you
sense.
still probably are not using Python, but when you're using Python, it's the higher level models, the things. Most of it, electronic trading, people think is really, really clever stuff, but normally most of it is buy here and sell here as fast as you can. Right?
It's all arbitrage, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And or you're buying a packet of things, and it's very important that you don't miss one of the packets, right? Because if you're buying this and selling this to get the whole thing,
Right.
if you miss one of them, you're in trouble, right? And so it's all about speed. And so you've got very simple things. Whereas where people are doing Python is in the slightly higher level modeling of this
Sure.
stuff. And then you've got actual quants with physics degrees, or mostly physics degrees, doing modeling in Python.
Right. John Arnold says he has to get out of here pretty soon. But before you go, John, I want to mention that your son, how old's your son now?
He's 14 now.
You're going to use AOC with your son.
Yeah. He keeps ducking me.
Come here, kid. I want to show you something.
I've been trying to get him to look at day one with me.
Is he interested in coding at all? Or?
Yeah, he's really interested. He's just started coding at. We have at his age they start at GCSE, which is our early teen qualification, and he's doing computer science, but he's
Nice.
getting really bored because they keep teaching him about how CPUs work, and he wants to program.
It's helpful. My very early programming language was assembly in the 68,000, and I always thought that was helpful to me to understand a little bit of that.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking the other night about Lisp, how a lot of the low Lisp stuff is really about hardware Lisp machines, the early symbolics machines where they, the linked lists were stored in registers, and a lot of Lisp comes from that. It's important to understand that. I think if you, in fact, when you first start studying Lisp, you start learning about linked lists, and they really do talk almost at the hardware level about that. Yeah,
it's good stuff. I think the lower level you understand, the more you can understand how the code you write turns into that.
Right. That's right.
And you write more efficient code, and you write code that understands the machine.
It's also just a bonding thing, right? You have to bond with your machine. It has to become part of you. Well, I hope you can drag him over to the computer and sit down and do day one. I think day one's a good start.
I will if it kills me. I want to get him to do like the first 3 days. I mean, he's going to need help.
Did he do when he was younger Roblox or Minecraft or anything like that?
I think I've mentioned this to you before. I teach Code Club, which is the codeclub.org is an organization. They provide all the teaching materials, but we teach Scratch to begin with.
Oh, I love Scratch. That's a small talk. Yeah,
it's block based. It's drag and drop, and it's that's a really good place to start. But they go fairly quickly from Scratch into Python, which is why I always use Python, because I want to make sure that my Python skills are at least a chapter ahead of the kids.
I remember when Randall Schwartz, in the early days of Floss Weekly, we did we talked to people a lot in that area, and I remember Randall discovering Smalltalk and getting very excited about Smalltalk. And Scratch was kind of I think it was at Carnegie Mellon. It was one of the universities made a really great open source project out of it, and it's very useful for teaching. I'm glad to see people still using it. That's great.
But also, it's not just useful for teaching, but it teaches the right shape, because things like Unity and everything. If you're running a game, it's much more like Scratch than.
Oh, interesting. Is it? It's not click and drag and stuff.
No, but it's
module.
all event based and time based.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Actions per object rather than linear programming.
Yeah,
Can I do a king of games that you can learn from? If you've never seen it before, I would highly recommend 7 Billion Humans follow-on game. I think it's the H, but it's all visual, but it's a lot like you actually have to understand how in order to do it. And it would be great to work with a kid with that, I think, to work through it with problem.
Is it like Factorio a little bit, or?
No, it's like it's actual computer it's computer programming problems disguised
Oh,
are
whoops,
a
sorry.
bit of a
Turn
story,
that down.
but basically you're moving blocks around and then sorting them,
Oh,
or
cool.
you're picking. It's basically in a little, in a simpler form, I guess, in a little game that anyone could play.
Very
Maybe go
nice.
to some of the
Uh,
screenshots that are in there.
Yeah, let
Those
me see if I
third
can
or
get to
fourth
the
one.
actual game instead
Yeah.
of the advert. Well, maybe not. Let's look at the screenshots.
Like that one right there.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
really
cool.
Scratch-like.
Yeah, it looks like Scratch. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
In days gone by, they used Logo in like first grade and kindergarten, the earliest youngsters in Turtle graphics to teach them.
And
the
all
Logo.
that
What was
stuff
this
is
called?
still in
7
Scratch. You
billion?
can still do
That's
all
right.
that logo stuff in Scratch.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah.
And this was called what? 7 billion? Or
7 billion humans. It's
7
on
billion
Steam.
humans. That does look interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I
There's
mean,
a bunch of
company that makes
programming
it's called
games, actually.
the Tomorrow Corporation. It involves a lot more randomness, and so it's harder to solve some of those higher end problems because you basically are hoping that you got a random approach that happened to work out this time, and I don't really like that. But the first
Yeah.
one doesn't have any of that.
yeah. This is Scratch, which I highly recommend. What age group do you use this with, John Arnold? Oh, maybe we've lost
Sorry,
him.
I muted myself. No. So 9 and 10-year-olds.
Wow.
How do you feel about me promoting Code Club to the people that might be willing to go and help kids?
Promote
learn?
it. Code Club. What
Yeah.
is it?
So codeclub.org.
Yeah.
They provide the curriculum. What you're doing is you're volunteering. There's no pay for this. If you're going to go and do it, you're going to do it for free. Your job, if you go in as a volunteer, is obviously to help the kids with the coding, but they'll typically have some Scratch experience by the time you get there. So what your job is to do is to show them how fun it is, to let them see your enjoyment of the coding, and that will make them enthusiastic about coding.
Nice.
Code Club will help you find your local school, any schools in your area, or maybe libraries in your area that are looking for volunteers who've got coding experience like yourselves. Sign up with them and go and spend an hour a week with the best humans on the planet, the kids.
Nice.
That's my pitch.
Oh, it's from the Raspberry Pi
Codeclub.org.
Foundation.
Yeah, codeclub.org.
Yeah. Yeah,
they-
it's part of
they
the
do
Raspberry
everything
Pi
for you.
Foundation. Yeah, that's cool.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Eben's done such amazing stuff. Have any of you used Swift Playgrounds? Doug, did you ever use Swift Playgrounds?
A little bit, but I'm mostly.
That's the
just an
theory,
Xcode.
I guess, is
I
that
guess it is kind of Xcode too.
yeah,
really.
a kid can use
Under
it
the
to
scene.
a kid could use. I mean, you wouldn't want to use.
Oh,
it
you're
as a
talking about
pro.
like on the iPad, like the
on the iPad and so
Playgrounds.
forth.
I
Yeah,
think I played with it once or twice.
it looks like fun. I just wondered, it's one of those things Apple puts out, then you never know if anybody uses it. In
I used
theory,
it
you could
briefly
actually
with the
design an
kids.
app and put it in the App Store on Swift Playgrounds.
Yeah, it was pretty good to start with the kids on Code Club. I took it along.
Oh, okay, good. That's
Yeah,
good to know.
it was, but it gets fairly quickly gets too hard for them.
Yeah.
So.
John Arnold, have a great night. You stayed up late with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to have to go out because I've got to get the kids to school in the morning.
Oh my God. Go to
So
bed.
yeah, I'm
Go to
going to go.
I'm going to let you all go. We're going to wrap it up. I have to go dancing and really want to finish day 5 before I start day 6. So maybe I better
Pictures
get...
or it didn't happen, Leo.
I could show you pictures, but I'm not going to. Thank you, John Arnold. Thank you, Darren Oakey. Great to see you down under in Sydney. He's at work right now creating derivatives, trying to solve the market.
No longer in trading.
Oh, you're out of that. Okay, good. Hey, I really appreciate what you do and help us, how you help us with the streams and all of that. Thank you, and it's great. We'll see you in the advent of code. Take care. Paul Holder is a very big help, not just here, but Paul Holder helps run the Twit forums at twit.community. In fact, he's posting his notes from Advent of Code there. He's on Mastodon at pholder. He's in our Discord almost all the time as masquerading as Chocolate Milk Mini Sip. You just do that, Paul, so I have to say that out loud, don't you?
Well, so I wanted something that would definitely be unique, and then you complained it was too long, and I tried to shorten it, but you can't really change
that's
that.
pretty unique.
No, you're stuck with it. But your name lends itself very well to a wide range of pseudonyms. He's placeholder on the Advent of Cold leaderboard, which is, I think, also very good. But we know Paul. We now know who you are. No more hiding. Thank you so much for everything you do. We appreciate it. Sci-Phase, who is our leader on the leaderboard, is what your code for a living, Sci-Phase? I forgot. I think I've asked you this, but I've forgotten the answer.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So this is all in your fingers. You don't even have to think about it. You just sit down and whip it out.
Well, I mean,
I
it's
still
a
have to
different
think
kind
about
of coding than.
Do you enjoy it? I mean, given that it's a little easier for you than it is for somebody like me, do you enjoy it?
No, I do. I mean, it's it's really fun. It's
we were talking last night about the endorphin,
or
the dopamine rush you get from hitting submit, and that's the right
You've
answer.
gotten a star. Yeah.
It's a really good feeling, especially for me, because I constantly feel like I'm teetering on the edge of like nonsense. And when it works, it's like I don't know how I did that, but wow, that's fantastic.
That's the best when it's like you're not really sure. You're like,
shouldn't be
I
right.
think it's right. I'm not sure. If I'm wrong, it's going to take me longer than a minute, so I might as well try. And,
right.
It's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a
Hey,
tight
hey,
rope.
Sci-Phase, do you use Python professionally?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
Well. So yes, I do. Although I have not been for over a year now, because my client that I have right now, it's not a Python shop. So I haven't been using Python professionally for the past, over a year now.
I do want to point something out that the really good coders, Darren and Sci-Phase, don't post their code. They don't want anybody to see it. Is it ugly?
Mine's kind of ugly. Yeah.
Mine is so. We've had this conversation before about doing it fast versus doing it right, unit tests and all that stuff.
I am the one who does it really detailed.
Well, and I mean, I'm all for that in real world code and even side projects where I'm building a tool for myself or whatever. So I do approach Advent of Code differently. Maybe partially to add a little extra something to it so it is different from what I do all the time anyway.
Oh, so you can do it a little bit more rough and ready, yeah.
And so, yes, I mean, I am always just going for speed. Like, I'm just trying to get the answer as fast as possible.
Right.
I will do whatever I need to do to get it as fast as possible. In past years, I have, gone back and, spent, hours on, like, cleaning it up or,
that's a waste of time, though.
Make it a version that's like, super fast. That's always fun to do, like to try to optimize it, even to the point of unreadability, but getting it to work as quickly as possible is sort of like a, like a part 3 challenge, people have called it. So,
there's also that parable. There's also that parable of the cobbler's kids are the ones that don't have the worst shoes. I can see where you don't have to write the best code if your goal is to write the fastest code or to get the answer the fastest.
Yeah,
it's a good mental break, I think.
Yeah,
I like having tests and tools and automated stuff to make keep the code at a good level of quality and all that stuff. I love doing that for real code. Advent of Code is it's a sandbox to just kind of go crazy.
This is just more play.
That's one of the things that's great about Advent of Code is it's different strokes for different folks. Whatever it is that floats your boat. I feel like I'm a little bit like working in my garage on a woodworking project. It's just part of the fun of it. The pleasure of it for me is trying to make something that looks beautiful and is elegant and it's a building. It's almost a building project for me. Often is because I write little functions and compose them into larger things, and it just feels like I'm building a cathedral sometimes, which is what I enjoy. It's not very fast, and it's often not very efficient, but it's fun. And I do often try. I mean, if I do on every solution, I time it just to see if I can, where it is, and most of the time I keep it well under a second. So that makes me happy. John Arnold, I showed our leaderboard, and John Arnold does put his code on GitHub. You can click his name and you'll see his repository. Many do, but not all. And of
I
course,
have been cleaning up my repository that I've had for
I'm not guilting you into this.
years now.
Sci-Fi,
Well,
so-
no. It's not you. I was actually already doing it because
Yeah. It's kind of
I
fun.
might at some point in the next week or something. maybe
Okay.
I'll have something
We'd like to
that.
see it.
We'll see.
I find it very useful to see other people's codes. And usually what I will do is I will, after I've solved it, I don't like to do it before I've solved it. Unless I'm really stuck, I will go to the Advent of Code subreddit. And what they do is they post the solutions by language. After the first 100 people have solved it, they start posting solutions. They are spoilers, but it's a great way to see how people do it in other languages. I do often, and there aren't very many, but I look for people who do it in Common Lisp, and I learn a lot after I do it, and I understand what the solution is and what we're trying to do.
Common Lisp right there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some Common Lisp. Let's just see.
There's day 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen him before. Verdemelt. So yeah, I'm not going to look too far because I don't want to. He's done what a lot of people do. Looks like he's got a lot of. You see, this AOC colon. He's got an AOC library, and it's a lot of people do that. And you can tell I don't because I have to write it all from scratch each and every time.
And then the lambda there, is that the anonymous function you were talking about?
Yeah. So, and it's exactly where I said it in a list comprehension. So mapcar maps a function across a list. So rules, here is his list, and actually he's doing it within the remove if not. And so that's an anonymous function that for the value p returns whether p is equal to page. So
Okay,
yeah.
it just takes a little time to get used to the syntax.
Yeah, once you get used to it, it's I don't
it's not
think
bad.
it's kind of straightforward. He's using an interesting. This is a local function, labels. So there's there's labels. There are a couple of ways to do stuff locally.
He's using that 5 a.m. you were talking about.
Yeah, he uses the same
testing.
test. He uses the same test harness. There are about 30 test harnesses for this, but this is one that's widely used as 5 a.m. Yeah, so he's doing something very similar to what I do. I won't look at his part 2, but yeah, I mean, I think Lisp is, once you get used to it, people always focus on the number of parentheses, and I don't even see the parentheses. That's just, the indentation tells you more about what's going on than anything else. But unlike Python, indentation is not syntax. You could all write it in one big line if you wanted to. Yeah, I just like it.
I guess it kind of forces you to keep your functions relatively small.
Yeah, well, it doesn't force you to, but it makes it easy
helps.
because there's a lot of function composition. There are a lot of tools for composition,
I
so
think
it
that's
makes
kind
it
of the same idea with Python, right? Where
yes,
you
you could write everything as a big long function if you want to.
But then you're not going to be able to read it.
Yeah,
or it'd be difficult for you to read it.
Well, and here's another common Lisp solution. There are, if I in Racket, which is actually a scheme. I started Advent of Code in Racket, and it's very similar if you look at it, but it has some nice
differences.
Well. Yeah, it's definitely some differences. Yeah, this is always fun to look at. Here's a Java YAML script. Okay, fine. There are
YAML.
definitely.
Oh my.
Yeah, there's some weirdos in here. The number of people doing it in Rust is really going up. I think Rust is too verbose.
Int code solution.
Yes, probably. Int code is a language we wrote 5 years ago in Advent of Code. That was actually really a fun year. I think it was 2020, 2021.
That really was a fun year.
People hated it, but at the same time, it was 2019, Darren says. As you were writing a language, and then it got more and more elaborate day by day. It was
every other day, pretty much was.
Yeah.
That
was in 2019 in the Advent of Code.
Yeah, some people hated that. Yeah, Darren says it's 2019.
I'll have to check that
out. It was very divisive.
It
was divisive. That's a good way to put it.
Some people loved it. Some people hated it.
Yeah.
I'll have to check those out. Yeah, that looks interesting.
For me, it was
that was my first year.
Me too.
Doing it. I didn't know how to do an A* search until I got to the search. I think it was just finished.
Right.
That's the year I started, and I never finished it.
Yeah, there was like there was an int code program that was like a maze game, and you had to solve it by finding your way through
Yeah.
the maze inside the game.
That was neat.
Yeah, that
It
was
was-
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Really mind-boggling.
I think that year I
Yeah.
was in fact working in Racket. Yeah, I have some early Racket stuff. Racket though, I thought Racket would be perfect for that because it's a language that's primarily used to design new languages. And so what I was tempted to do, and I didn't, and thank goodness I didn't, is to do a int code DSL in Racket, which would have maybe been a nice way to solve it. But I'm just looking to see if I can find in my Racket solutions, find it what day was what was it? Early int code day? I don't remember off the top of my head. I only got the first 7.
Like 3.
Day 2 was the first one.
Day 2? All right, let's go back.
Day 2. They all
That was the first.
Yeah.
must have been
Those
2,
are the
4,
even
6,
ones
8
or
or something.
something.
Yeah. So I don't know what I've done here. There we go. Is that day 2? Yeah. So I did something that's now considered not good, which is to put the actual text of the problem in there. An encode program is a list of integers separated by commas. To run one, start by looking at the first integer called position 0. Here you'll find the opcode, either 1, 2, or 99. These opcodes kind of proliferated later in the month. The opcode indicates what to do. For example, 99 means the program is finished. Should immediately halt. Encountering an unknown opcode means something went wrong. So then you have to write an opcode int code interpreter, and that was a lot of fun. This was, I think, my first year, so I put a lot of extra stuff in there, but I did solve it. So,
It was a good way to supply you a program that you had him make the problem more challenging, giving you code that you were interpreting.
yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
And then sometimes you had to do stuff with it, like, I think with that maze, little bit of a spoiler, but I think with the maze, the solution was basically, you couldn't just run one version of the program, or you'd have to like backtrack. So you had to like add the ability to sort of duplicate the interpreter in its current state and then continue on from there to basically do your A* search. So like you were sort of branching off all these different copies of the interpreter. Yeah, it was...
Oh my God. Guys, I'm going to let
We
you
had to
go because
reverse
I need to
engineer
go.
on other days,
I have to go dance.
Girls swing dancing, yeah.
You
Thank you.
gonna do another live one tonight, or Leo? Or?
I have to do 5. I have to finish 5 before I do that. I possibly. It's so okay. So here's my concern. It gets too hard, and then it's really kind of like I'm sitting here going, I don't know, and I'm stuck. I was very pleased that I was able to get the first 4 days and solve it and get to the end within 2 hours. I think 5 might have been, but I have my doubts about 6. So I don't know. What would I do? How should we do it if we don't solve it? I guess you guys could walk me through it. You could help me get there.
The way I had originally envisioned what we're doing tonight was that we would take
Yeah,
a problem, we would
Right.
give you some
Right.
advice, and then you could go back together later and
Right.
discuss how
Well,
you
I
did
may-
that. But if you want.
I may end up doing that. Let's wait till later in the month. We'll find a problem that's really kind of interesting as well as challenging. And then it might be kind of fun after you guys have solved it to help me understand, what's going on. Maybe even do one with the pathfinding problem, which would be kind of fun. I think it would be a chance for people to learn.
That would be
pathfinding.
interesting. Yeah, I haven't really done a lot of pathfinding myself.
Yeah.
Because I suspect I'll get about 2 weeks in and I'll be like,
You're gonna get there.
yeah.
You're gonna get there, Doug, as I will. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Sci-Phase. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, John Arnold. I think he's probably left by now. It's really a pleasure having all of you in here. and I hope that we get to do more of these. Maybe I was thinking maybe do this every week. I don't know. I don't want to commit to anything at this point, but maybe. Thank you, Darren. Have a great night or great day. You're going to lunch now. Paul Holder is going to rest up because in 2 hours you've got day 6.
Yeah, for me it's 8:00, so I'm in Central.
You're not going to stay up till 11 for the problem this year? Today?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, come on. My biggest problem is my spouse. I don't like leaving her at 9 p.m. every night. Bye, honey. I'll see you later. And she's always asleep by the time I come back. So
And
Yeah,
then
I was thinking last night I would stay up, but then I fell asleep. So
I have to tend to my personal life as well.
Yeah, a few years ago I did it on holidays and I got in a lot of trouble for that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what's funny is at least 2 years we went on vacation in Mexico, and I was solving the backlog on the beach, and that was really fun. All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you, everybody in the club. We appreciate it. If you're not yet a member, join the club.
Night.
Club Twit is what supports things like this. Certainly no advertiser ever would. If you're not a member of the club, it's $7 a month. You get ad-free versions of all the programming we do. Stuff like this ends up on a special Twit Plus feed. We had earlier today Emily Forlini and Ask Me Anything coming up. We've got a photo assignment, Stacy's Book Club. More advent of code, I'm sure. So if you like what you see here and you want to encourage us to do more, twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
see you, Leo.
Take care.
All right.